Hello MUS 2020 students. This video looks at how to use 3 MIDI effects in Live: Chord, Arpeggiator, and Scale. I've got a simpler device already loaded with Simplest Piano, so you can follow along. Now, I need to add the MIDI effects to the channel. Since Simpler is a MIDI device and is already on a MIDI channel, I just have to place them before the instrument device. Let's start with Chord. I'm going to go to Midi Effects, which is the same in every version of Live, and select Chord. I'm going to grab it and drag it down here into the device area before Simplest Piano. It doesn't look like there's a lot here. The device is turned on, as indicated by the yellow dot, but everything is set to 0 and thus grayed out. If I play like this, nothing really is happening because it's not shifting any pitches. If I move the first shift knob though, I'm going to do +3. There we go. That will give me a minor third, and it's going to play multiple notes for every one note that I hit on the keyboard. Here, it's passing through the notes I played and adding a note 3 semitones higher as well. This would be the equivalent of playing a note on a guitar and then simultaneously playing a note exactly 3 frets higher. So if I play a C, it's passing that to the simpler device and adding an E flat above at the same time. If I go in reverse to negative numbers, it counts down that many semitones from the note that I played on the keyboard. So if I set it to -4 and play a C, I'll get a C and an A flat below the note that I played. And I can just continue up on the keyboard and get a sequence exactly 4 semitones below whatever I play. Of course, I've got 8 knobs here, so I can make this much more complex and get some interesting sounds. Let's build a major triad. We'll set the first shift knob to +4 and the second to +7. I can do this by selecting the knob and just hitting +4 on my keyboard and hitting +7. Or I can hit the hot swap button that looks like 2 arrows circling each other. This allows me to select a preset from the Chord device, which is opened up here. Let's try that with a Ligetian chord, which I am assuming will sound like something that the composer Ligeti would write. I just double-click and then turn off hot swap. And you can see that the name of my Chord device has changed to Ligetian. Let's hear what that sounds like. Okay, that's pretty cool. Or, if I want, I can go back to the original, turn off hot swap, and I'm going to input some random values. If I create something like that I like, I can click on the save icon and save the preset. I'm just going to call this Ben's Chord. EDMprod.com has a really great article on this. I'll include a link in the chapter for this particular lesson. Keep in mind that the Chord plugin allows you to go up or down by 36 semitones. That's 3 complete octaves. This makes the plugin really useful if, like me, you're not a great pianist and you still want to get some interesting harmonies. You can also use multiple tracks, say one for major and one for minor, and alternate between them as needed. Next, we'll look at the arpeggiator. This takes a chord as an input and breaks it into patterns. Let's turn off the Chord device, go back to Midi Effects, and we're going to add an arpeggiator between Chord and simplest piano. If I use a single note, it doesn't do much other than just repeat constantly. But if I play a chord, it repeats the notes in the chords in an ascending manner until I take my hands off the keys. It's currently set to sync, so it will play in a division of my track's tempo. Let's speed it up, though, by changing the rate from eighths to sixteenths. The upward style is a little boring, though, so I can use the Style menu to change the direction, up or down, both, moving into the center, which they call converging, or out from the center, which is called diverging. Holding a repeated high note while moving, which is known as pinky, or a low note, which is known as thumb. These are based on how the pianist would play these using the right and the left hand, respectively. The order in which the notes are played, chord trigger, this lets me alternate between 2 chords, although you will need a keyboard for this, or I can play randomly, using either complete random, random where it always goes to different pitches, or random once where it plays every pitch once before choosing a new one. The offset knob changes the order in which the sequence begins. So if I have a 3-note chord and offset to 1, then it will start on the 2nd note instead of on the lowest. Transpose lets me change the pitches. I first set a type, so either shift, major, or minor, and set how many times it will transpose using steps. This will have it play once at the normal pitches, and then up to 8 additional times, moving by whatever I set in distance. This creates some very, very interesting patterns very quickly. Just be aware that in shift mode, the distance is always a set number of semitones. While in major or minor mode, you set the key and then distance moves that many scale degrees up within the scale. Finally, there's repeats and gates. Repeats controls how many times the arpeggiator sequence plays, either infinitely or 1 to 16 times. Gate controls the overall length of each note, with anything over 100% creating a smoother legato playing. And I can chain that so it takes the output of chords to generate complex patterns, which I will do now. Last but not least, let's look at scale. Simply put, scale filters the incoming MIDI data so that you're always in a chosen scale. You start with the bass note. If you're just using the white keys on the piano, or A through L on the computer MIDI keyboard, just leave it at C. The transpose box changes the output by adding or subtracting that many semitones, shifting the output to a different key. So there's with 0. If I shift it up 2, I'm now playing in D major, even though I'm only playing white keys on the keyboard. In the middle is the matrix. Each vertical column corresponds to an input note in that key, and each horizontal row corresponds to the output note, and they change color when played. So I can easily shift the notes to only play a pentatonic scale with the black keys. Pretty cool. And then I can transpose it to start on another note. And if I use hot swap, I can use any of the pre-programmed scales in Live. Unfortunately, it doesn't support any of the really crazy stuff like microtonal scales, so you're out of luck if you want to do Arabic or Indian classical. As you've probably guessed, I can chain this to take the output of Chord or Arpeggiator to ensure that I'm always playing in the correct key. All I have to do that is move it to wherever I want it before my MIDI device. Chaining it together like this will let me create really complex harmonies with minimal effort, and putting scale in will ensure that I will be in tune no matter how badly I bash the keyboard.